Why does 90 degrees in Florida feel like you're literally walking through a thick, suffocating sauna, but 90 degrees in Arizona just feels pleasantly warm? I mean, it is the exact same air temperature. So what is physically happening to your body in Florida that isn't happening in Arizona? Well, the answer isn't just about the heat. It is entirely about the physics of evaporation. You see, we humans keep cool in hot weather by evaporating sweat from our skin and water from our breathing passages. But when the atmospheric water content is super high, like it is in Florida, this absolutely crucial cooling process is severely inhibited. Basically, your sweat simply has nowhere to go. So, by the end of this lecture, you're going to completely understand the concept of relative humidity, the formulas behind vapor pressure, and how to actually apply them to real examples. And we'll even uncover the actual physical reason water forms bubbles when it boils. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The humidity heat problem. 2. What is relative humidity? 3. Calculating with vapor pressure. 4. Understanding the dew point. 5. The physics of boiling. And 6. Our summary and final takeaways. Section 1. The humidity heat problem. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. That old saying actually hits the nail on the head scientifically. Think about trying to dry your wet hair. It's way faster to blow hot air over it rather than cold air, right? That's because increasing the temperature gives water molecules the kinetic energy to break away and enter the gas phase faster. That's evaporation. But if the air around you is already jam-packed with water vapor, your body's attempt to evaporate sweat just hits a brick wall. Section 2. What is relative humidity? The science of saturation. Let's look at the actual scientific terms we use to measure this stuff. When the weather report mentions humidity, they're actually talking about relative humidity. Relative humidity is just a ratio. It tells us how much water vapor is actually present compared with the absolute maximum possible amount at that specific temperature. When we reach that absolute maximum limit, we call it saturation. At saturation, relative humidity is exactly 100% and net evaporation stops completely. This is exactly why you feel so incredibly hot on a humid day. Your sweat essentially reaches a standoff with the saturated air. To really master this, we need to look at two crucial terms: partial pressure and vapor pressure. Now, listen closely here, because this is a super common mistake. You'll often hear people say that air holds water, like a sponge. Actually, scratch that. It's completely false. The water vapor isn't being held by the air at all. It's all about pressure. Partial pressure is the actual amount of water vapor currently floating in the space. Vapor pressure, though, is the maximum capacity limit. And here's the kicker. That limit is dictated purely by the temperature of the water itself, completely independent of the air around it. Wait, this is important. What happens if there's an imbalance? What if the partial pressure, the actual vapor present, somehow gets higher than the vapor pressure limit? Think about it for a second. Well, the system forces a correction. Condensation takes place. The invisible gas is literally forced back into liquid water droplets until the balance is restored. Section 3. Calculating with vapor pressure, using real data. Now that we've got the basic idea of these competing pressures, let's move to the math and see how temperature sets this invisible limit. Check out this table. It's a real game changer for visualizing this. This is a simplified excerpt from standard physics tables. Look at how dramatically the maximum saturation limit scales up when things get hotter. At 20 degrees Celsius, a cubic meter can contain about 17.2 grams of water vapor. But raise that up to human body temperature, 37 degrees, and it jumps to 44 grams. Take it all the way to the boiling point, 100 degrees, and it skyrockets to 598 grams. The hotter it gets, the faster the molecules move, and the more vapor can exist in that space. So let's walk through a mini example of calculating relative humidity. Say it's 25 degrees Celsius outside, and we measure the actual water vapor density to be 9.40 grams per cubic meter. We check our data tables and find the maximum saturation limit at 25 degrees is 23.0 grams. You just divide the actual density, 9.4, by the maximum density, 23.0, and multiply by 100. That gives us a precise relative humidity of 40.9%. Pretty simple, right? It's just a basic ratio of what we have versus the maximum we're allowed to have. Section 4. Understanding the dew point, temperature and condensation. Now, let's transition to a new scenario. What happens when the sun goes down and the temperature starts to drop? This brings us to the dew point. The dew point is the exact temperature where the air's relative humidity hits 100%. Imagine an autumn evening. The actual amount of water vapor in the air isn't changing, but as the temperature drops, that maximum vapor pressure limit drops right along with it. Eventually, the temperature gets so low that the shrinking maximum limit perfectly equals the actual amount of vapor. Boom, 100% relative humidity. If it gets even a fraction colder, condensation is forced to happen, and that's why you wake up to find morning dew covering the grass. So, let me pose a question you might actually see on an exam. Why does a temperature drop so much faster in a dry desert at night compared to a humid forest? Well, the answer lies right here in the dew point. You see, condensation actually releases a ton of heat back into the environment. But in the desert, the air is so incredibly dry that the temperature rarely falls low enough to ever hit the dew point. Because no condensation happens, no heat gets released back into the air, allowing the desert temperature to just absolutely plummet as soon as the sun sets. Section 5. The Physics of Boiling, Beyond 100 degrees Celsius. Let's move to our final major concept and connect all these vapor pressure mechanics to a pot of water on your kitchen stove. Now, you might be wondering, why does water actually form bubbles when it boils? We already know water evaporates constantly at lower temperatures without making any bubbles at all. You leave a glass of water on the counter, it's going to disappear eventually, totally bubble-free. So what magical threshold gets crossed at 100 degrees Celsius that suddenly causes all this chaos in the pot? Step by step, let's follow the journey of a single bubble. Water ordinarily contains tiny amounts of dissolved air. At room temperature, a tiny bubble at the bottom of a pot feels the crushing weight of the atmospheric pressure pushing down on the liquid. That's about 1.00 atmosphere of pressure. As you crank up the heat, water vapor eagerly rushes into this tiny air bubble. The bubble really wants to expand, but it just can't overcome that 1.00 atmosphere of downward pressure from the room. But watch what happens as we hit 100 degrees Celsius. At exactly 100 degrees, the vapor pressure of the water itself finally equals 1.00 atmosphere. Suddenly, the water vapor inside the bubble pushes outward with the exact same force that the atmosphere is pushing inward. The bubble rapidly expands. Its buoyant force takes over, and it rises violently to the surface. And that's what boiling is. It is the exact temperature where the water's vapor pressure finally matches the atmospheric pressure of the room. Section 6. Summary and final takeaways, wrapping up the physics. Before we finish up, let's quickly lock in the key points you'll need to remember for your exams. Here are your 3 golden rules. First, relative humidity is always a ratio. It compares the actual vapor you have to the maximum saturation capacity dictated by temperature. Second, the dew point is the precise temperature where that capacity shrinks so much that saturation hits 100% and condensation begins. And third, boiling isn't just about adding heat. It's the exact moment water's vapor pressure becomes perfectly equal to the atmospheric pressure pressing down on it. I want to leave you with this final real-world thought. Think about a pressure cooker. If boiling happens when vapor pressure equals atmospheric pressure, what happens if you seal a pot shut and artificially increase the atmospheric pressure inside it? Well, the boiling point changes. The water has to get much, much hotter than 100 degrees Celsius for its vapor pressure to finally match that extreme artificial pressure. This means you can literally cook food in liquid water at 120 or even 150 degrees, drastically speeding up your cooking time. You aren't just trapping heat, you're fundamentally rewriting the rules of boiling using the physics of vapor pressure. Keep an eye out for our next explainer, where we're going to take these thermal concepts and apply them to the fascinating laws of thermodynamics.